Most people believe rules exist to protect society, that laws are written to ensure fairness, that regulations exist to maintain balance, that systems collapse because rules fail. History shows something far more unsettling. Rules don't disappear when systems collapse. They change hands. And when the middle collapses, control over the rules moves upward, fast. Because the middle class is the only group that truly depends on rules. The wealthy don't, the poor can't. But the middle lives and dies by stability, contracts, and predictable enforcement. When the middle disappears, the rules stop serving balance and start serving power. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, incrementally, often under the banner of emergency. At first, nothing feels different, and the laws still exist. Institutions still function, courts still operate. But the spirit of the rules changes. They stop protecting the many. They start insulating the few. This is the moment when systems cross an invisible threshold. Not collapse, consolidation. Throughout history, every major breakdown follows the same sequence. Economic pressure rises. Social trust erodes. The middle thins. And then rulemaking concentrates. Because rules are not neutral. They are tools. And tools always end up in the hands of those who can use them most effectively. When the middle collapses, three groups remain. Those with assets, those without leverage, and those who write the rules. Over time, the first and the third merge. This is not conspiracy, it is structure. In stable systems, rules are written broadly. They apply evenly. They move slowly. They prioritize continuity. But stability is expensive. It requires restraint. And restraint disappears when systems are under stress. Under pressure, rulemaking shifts from fairness to survival, from balance to control, from public good to private protection. This is when laws become defensive instead of cooperative. When regulations stop asking, is this fair? And start asking, does this preserve order? History shows this transition clearly. In collapsing empires, laws multiply. They don't disappear, but they become selective. Exceptions are carved out. Enforcement becomes uneven. Compliance becomes costly. The middle struggles to keep up. The wealthy adapt effortlessly. They hire expertise. They influence interpretation. They navigate complexity. Complex rules always favor those who can afford to understand them. This is why rulebooks explode in size during late-stage systems. Complexity is not accidental. It's a filter. The more complicated the system becomes, the fewer people can meaningfully participate. The middle, once protected by clarity, is locked out by obscurity. Meanwhile, the poor are governed by enforcement, not access. The wealthy are governed by negotiation. And the rules become elastic, rigid at the bottom, flexible at the top. This is when law stops being a shield and becomes a weapon. Crises accelerate this shift. Economic crashes, financial panics, social unrest. Each emergency justifies new rules, temporary measures, special powers, exceptional authority. These rules are rarely reversed, because once power learns it can move quickly, it never chooses to slow down again. The middle usually supports these changes at first, out of fear, out of hope, out of trust. They believe the rules will restore stability. They believe the sacrifice is shared. It isn't. The middle pays in compliance, the bottom pays in punishment, the top pays in nothing. Because those who control the rules don't experience them the same way. They design them, they interpret them, they enforce them selectively. This is why late-stage systems feel contradictory. Rules everywhere, fairness nowhere. The system becomes hyper-legal and deeply unjust at the same time. Because rules are no longer meant to create opportunity. They exist to manage decline, to slow chaos, to protect concentrations of power, to keep pressure from reaching the top. At this stage, the middle no longer has representation. Their interests are too diffuse, their leverage too weak. Their cohesion gone. Without a strong middle, rulemaking becomes transactional. Policies are written for donors, regulations for incumbents, exemptions for insiders. The language remains neutral. The outcomes do not. This is how systems harden. The rules don't break. They crystallize. And once they do, mobility ends. Because rules define who can move, who can own, who can exit. And when rulemaking concentrates, mobility collapses. History offers no exception. When the middle collapses, law stops being social glue. It becomes a fence, and fences exist to keep people in or out. The middle realizes this too late. They keep playing by rules that no longer protect them. They comply with systems that no longer serve them. They trust institutions that have already shifted allegiance. This is not because institutions are evil, it's because institutions respond to incentives. And once incentives align upward, rulemaking follows. The real turning point isn't when rules change. It's when enforcement changes, when penalties increase for the many, when forgiveness expands for the few, when complexity replaces clarity, when discretion replaces consistency. This is when systems quietly lock into place. From the outside, everything still looks functional, but internally the structure has changed. And once rules are captured, they are almost impossible to reclaim peacefully. Because power protected by law is stronger than power protected by force. Force provokes resistance. Law provokes compliance. This is why rule control is the final stage of consolidation. Once achieved, collapse no longer looks chaotic. It looks managed, predictable, permanent. People sense this intuitively. They feel the pressure. They feel the unfairness. They feel the loss of voice, but they struggle to name it, because nothing is obviously broken. That's the genius of rule-based control. It hides domination behind procedure. This is why systems don't fall when rules are captured. They stagnate, they decay, they harden, until something external breaks them, or they collapse under their own weight. Understanding who controls the rules isn't about paranoia. It's about realism, because power doesn't announce itself. It embeds. And when the middle collapses, the rules stop being neutral. They become directional, upward, always upward. If you want to understand how power really moves, not how it's explained in textbooks, this channel is for you. We don't follow headlines here. We follow structures. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because once you understand who controls the rules, you start seeing the system exactly as it is.